Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. We are continuing with English grammar series videos. In this clip, I am going to discuss verb, that is another significant and must know aspect of English grammar. Dear viewers, now let's learn what's a verb. In this regard, you must know that a verb is a word to describe an action or thought. Or, in other words, a verb is a doing word or an action word. Because a verb describes the action, a verb describes the actions of a noun or the actions of a pronoun. Apart from, a verb is the significant part of a sentence. So let's take an example to understand the verb clearly. The sentence is, they are good students. Here in this sentence, the word are is a verb. Dear viewers, first of all, we must know the two kinds of verbs, and these are finite verb and infinite verb. Now, first of all, let's explore the finite verb. So, a finite verb contains a subject and it is limited by the person and the number of subjects. An example is here to understand the finite verb. She is reading stories. Here, reading the verb is a finite one. And we must know that a finite verb is of two types. These are transitive verb and intransitive verb. Now, we'll discuss the transitive verb and intransitive verb very shortly in this clip. Now, let's move on to the non-finite verb. Dear viewers, you should know that unlike the finite verbs, the non-finite verbs are not limited by the person and the number of the subjects. And non-finite verbs are of three types. These are infinite, gerund, and participle. And we'll discuss the non-finite verb in our next video, that is the part 2 of the verb. Dear viewers, now let's learn the classes of verbs. And in this regard, you must know that verbs are of two classes. These are main verbs and auxiliary or helping verbs. Here you should know that main verbs are of two kinds, transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. And in this clip, we'll discuss the world of the main verbs in detail. And whereas we will discuss the auxiliary or helping verbs in the part 2 of verb. So, dear all, it's time to know the categories of main verbs. These include transitive verb and intransitive verb. So, let's begin with the transitive verbs. And you should know that the word transitive is related to two other words in terms of meanings. These are transfer and move. So, in other words, a transitive verb transfers its action from subject to object. In short, a transitive verb applies the action to the object from the subject. And this type of verb, that is transitive verb, denotes what the subject does. So, let's take a comprehensive example to understand the transitive verbs concept clearly. The sentence is she eats the cake. In this sentence, she forms the subject. Eats is a verb because this word eat actually is denoting the action, whereas the cake forms the object. So here the action, that is eating, gets connected with the object, the cake. So this way this word eats, which is a verb, and it belongs to the category of the transitive verb, because here we can see the transformation of the action from subject to object. Dear friends, now let's move on to the intransitive verbs and understand each and everything about the world of the intransitive verbs. So, an intransitive verb doesn't take an object to make sense in the sentence. So, here the action doesn't shift to the object from the subject, like that of the transitive verbs. So let's take an example. They danced. So here the verb danced denotes a complete action, and this way it doesn't take any object to complete the sense. So it's an example of an intransitive verb. Dear viewers, now let's find out a few points to remember the intransitive and transitive verbs. These are: passive voice is related to transitive verbs only. Some intransitive verbs used preposition with them to become transitive verbs. For example, he asked for a pen. Here, the verb asked, while was used with the pronoun he, was simply an intransitive verb. But using the preposition for with it, it becomes an example of a transitive verb. Next, some intransitive verbs used an object of similar meaning after them, and these objects are called cognate objects. For example, she sings a nice song. Here, song is the object, and verb sings somehow becomes similar. So, this way, the object song is a category of cognate object. Next point to remember the transitive and intransitive verbs. This is some verbs can used as both in the sense of transitive and intransitive. So let's take an example to understand this point, that is how does a verb can be used as a transitive or as an intransitive verb. The example is she reads a novel. So in this sentence, she is the subject, reads is the action or verb, and a novel forms the object. So here the verb is used transitively, whereas in another sentence, that is, she reads loudly. In this sentence, the verb reads is used intransitively. That means the verbs are alike, same verbs has been used in both the sentences, but in terms of sense, one, that means sentence one, is an example of a transitive verb, whereas the second sentence is an example of untransitive verb. So this is about the transitive and intransitive verb. So go through this clip. Hope it would be easy for you to understand the concepts of transitive verbs as well as intransitive verbs. So please stay tuned to my channel because our next clip will be there about the other significant portions of verb. So the video will come very shortly. That is the part 2 of the section will be so very shortly in our channel. So dear viewers, this is the part 1 regarding verb, and thank you for staying with us, and please stay tuned to my channel, and at the same time please like, comment, share and subscribe to it. Thank you.